to lower units nearer the front. At that time, they only broke codes and ciphers at Bletchley itself.
Noel foi membro da primeira equipe de campo de criptógrafos já formada. Em 1942, sua equipe foi enviada ao norte da África para a invasão de Argel, depois de mostrar seu talento para decifrar os códigos do inimigo.
It was intensely interesting because we knew that what we were reading was what the Germans were sending to each other. I mean, it might be Rommel to Kesselring, or it might be Hitler to Rommel, it might be just any old general to his troops. But we knew precisely and exactly what the Germans were saying. And it became a challenge because, though I perhaps shouldn't say so, we became so efficient that there were quite long periods when we were reading this gobbledygook as quickly as the Germans were. We were decoding it as quickly as they were. And we knew, for example, that all sorts of people were being put into concentration camps because the Nazis regarded them as undesirables. And that included gays and Jews and gypsies and anybody they didn't like. And we were very conscious of this, very conscious indeed. We all had the same fascination with the job we were doing. And I can tell you with an absolute hand on my heart, I went a whole year without any sexual feelings at all. It was a kind of celibacy, and it was a vocation, because one was so intrigued with the job one was doing that one simply didn't think about this. It was just a non-event. It was extraordinary. I can't think how I did it.
Chris Scott tinha 17 anos quando foi mandado para o Canadá, onde aprendeu a ser piloto de caça.
I thought jokingly about being a cat with 9 lives, and I reckoned by the time I'd finished in the Air Force, I'd got through all my 9 lives. I mean, in training in Canada, you know, the cloud suddenly came down, mist cloud, and I mean, one looked over the side, and I mean, there was just cloud everywhere. And one was told, never come down through the cloud. And I thought, well, what happens when the petrol runs out? You know, what am I supposed to do then? Jump out? And so I thought, well, nothing venture, nothing win, so I nosed it down. And suddenly I saw a bloody hill in front of me, so I pulled back on the joystick, or whatever you call it, control column, and sort of crash landed. I hadn't put my wheels down, so it was really quite safe. I then went on to an operational squadron at Middle Wallop, this night fighter type squadron, and Ian Gleed was Wing Commander Ops on that station.
Ian Gleed era dos FIU, batalhão de aviadores britânicos que acompanhavam o 87º Esquadrão. Ele foi condecorado com a Distinguished Flying Cross e depois com a Distinguished Service Order.
And I was just sitting there after lunch, I think it was, one day, sort of reading something or other, and I felt these gimlet eyes boring into me, so I sort of looked up, and to my horror, there was the Wing Commander Ops staring at me. And not long after, I decided I'd go up and lie on my bed for a while. So I went into my room, and there on the windowsill was Ian Gleed, Wing Commander Ops, looking through my photo album. Well, of course, the gap between a new pilot officer and a wing commander was quite something, and of course one knew that he was a famous air race. And I sort of said, can I help, sir, or something like that. And he just got up, walked over and gave me a great kiss. He was the first person who ever buggered me, you know. And of course, at the time, I never really thought seriously about it. And but you see, he was only 25, for God's sake. And I was sort of turning 18. I thought we were in love, but at the same time, he had other affairs. So I wasn't so naive as to think that I was the only one. But then, of course, you know, one says to oneself, did it affect morale? I can't see how it could affect morale. I mean, there was a bloody war on, and one got on with the job.
Em abril de 1943, Ian Glead, condecorado com a Distinguished Service Order, a Distinguished Flying Cross e a Croix de Guerre, morreu numa missão na Tunísia aos 26 anos de idade. Servindo num destroyer nos comboios do Atlântico havia um sinaleiro, Dennis Pratley.
I was the only homosexual. And I became a mascot for the crew. They adored me. It was marvellous. I found very little hostility. I was treated as just one of the boys all the time. But at night, of course, it's very different, you know, because we were all in one mess. About 100 of us, 104 of us, I think. They were all in one mess with 3-tier bunks. And I was in the bottom one. Doesn't take much imagination to say what happened. Well, at first it was rather terrifying because I had someone just crawled into my bunk one night. And I said, what's happening here? You know, only small bunks, as you know, about the size of these the seats here. And he said, come on. He said, you know what I want. I said, I don't. I said, I'll report you. He said, you won't report me. And, of course, the next minute he was kissing and everything. He said, you remind me of my girl back home. And all these boys, they were all heterosexual, every one of them. And he said, quite a few of them said to me, don't you dare breathe a word of this to anyone. I said, no, of course not. He said, it's strictly between you and me, all right? You know, they'd crawl out of the bunk and go back into their own, you know. So, of course, no one was supposed to know, but everybody knew. When this first boy spurned me the next day, I was really hurt. I couldn't concentrate on anything. And the signal officer said, what's wrong with you, Pratley? He said, concentrate on your duties. I said, yes, of course, sir, I'm sorry. What's happened? Anything happened? I said, no, sir, no. All right, then. Keep a lookout. I said, yes, sir. But I imagine he knew everything that was going on. He said, you had a heavy night last night, didn't you? I said, yes, sir. He said, yes. Keep on the lookout.
Ainda durante seu treinamento básico no Exército, George Lewis, heterossexual, notou pela primeira vez que havia atividades homossexuais em sua unidade.
The thing was that we were all very young, we were all 18, and we were full of the joys of life. We were confined to barracks for 3 months in recruit training, and we were forever running or doing PT and things like that. When young people are terribly healthy, the sex drive is very strong. And it did happen. I mean, I've heard people creeping into other people's beds. And I won't say it was all that common, but it did occur.
Durante seu tempo no Exército, George Lewis ouviu boatos sobre pelo menos um homossexual que abusou de sua autoridade.
When I was a young recruit, there was a sergeant in the depot who had a bad reputation. Saturdays in the army was either a cross-country run or fatigues, and fatigues might consist of being detailed to scrub out a sergeant's bunk. And if a young recruit was sent down there to the sergeant's bunk and scrubbing out, and the sergeant made overtures, there's nothing much that the young recruit could do about it. He couldn't go and complain to anybody else. They wouldn't believe him. And as far as I know, this run did operate in the depot that I was. But, I mean, I can't swear to it because I never actually saw it, but it was talked about.
O Ministério da Defesa britânico não sabe dizer se a homossexualidade foi um problema durante a guerra. Simplesmente não se registravam detalhes sobre problema algum.
I can think of at least 5 men with whom I